everybody. Hub Arkush here along with Kevin Fishbain from the Northwest Herald Newsroom as we preview the AFC Title Game, the early game on Sunday, 2:05 kickoff Chicago time. And Kevin, it all starts and stops pretty much with Brady and Manning. I mean, you can't really talk about anything else. They're probably not the two most central figures to the outcome of the game, but that's what we got to start with first.
Yeah, and it's very likely the last Brady Manning game, at least in this kind of situation, the AFC Championship game. So I'm sure fans are excited to see it. CBS is certainly excited to have that. And you know, Peyton Manning is not what he certainly was, but he still knows how to take apart a defense better than anybody else, and he's facing a defensive mastermind in Bill Belichick that has that defense with a lot of shuffling parts playing pretty well.
And we've seen since Peyton Manning came back, he is now taking snaps under center, orchestrating the running game that Gary Kubiak wants to run. He looks a little crisper throwing the football, but it's really his footwork that's better. The arm, still questionable.
Yeah, it's one of the things that he and Tom Brady have shown. You know, we've gotten some more mobile quarterbacks in the NFL, but if you can have great footwork in the pocket, it doesn't matter how slow you are. These are two of the slowest quarterbacks in the league and two of the best at what they do. But you mentioned the running game. I think that's what really worked for Denver, especially early in that game against Pittsburgh, and they're going to want to get that going against New England.
Well, the other thing that really has plagued them is dropped passes. It was early before Manning got hurt. They killed Brock Osweiler, and in that game against Pittsburgh, 6 drops in the first half. Maybe Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, and all those other guys, they got to hold on to the football for them.
Yeah, they do. They can't afford any drops in those situations. You know, New England, yes, Denver has the best defense in the league, but the Patriots don't. It doesn't really matter to them. I mean, look what they've done against some of the best defenses, whether it's in the playoffs in the regular season. They're going to score points. Denver can't give up any opportunities. It can't be one of those games where they think they can win by only scoring 17 or 20 points.
Defensively, New England, it all may come down to Jamie Collins for them. He is their best defensive player. He went out against Kansas City, did not return, has been at practice during the week. We don't know if he's actually practicing. They need him desperately because Gerard Mayo is now done for the year, and Dante Hightower, the other linebacker, is just back from injury as well.
Yeah, you got to put pressure on Manning. You also have to cover those tight ends. You got to cover Vernon Davis and Owen Daniels in the middle of the field. It's something both Collins and Hightower can do. Keep an eye, of course, on Rob Ninkovich rushing off the edge. He has had a nice start to his playoff season, another playoffs for him. So, you know, it's going to be key for those guys in the defensive line to get some pressure on Denver.
And, you know, as well as Denver rushes the passer and tries to get pressure on Tom Brady, the bottom line is that with Sebastian Vollmer back and healthy, that was the difference in that offense. Yes, Edelman, Amendola, that's all nice. Of course, Gronkowski, but it put 3 offensive linemen back where they belonged, and they handled the Kansas City Chiefs pass rush, which I think is probably better than Denver's.
Yeah, you know, the most important thing Denver can do, it's going to be on their corners more so than their pass rushers. It's going to be on Aqib Talib and Chris Harris to do their job against Julian Edelman and however they decide to cover Rob Gronkowski, Danny Amendola, and Brandon LaFell to keep those guys from getting open because, as you said, it's hard to get after Brady in the first place because of his quick release, but then you mentioned the offensive line back intact also going to help them out.
Now, I've got to believe, as physical as Talib is, he's going to get the Gronkowski duty a good part of the game. Maybe the only one athletic enough and physical enough to go with him. That really does open up Edelman and Amendola, and maybe one of the unknowns. Maybe it's Brandon LaFell. Somebody else has to show up in that passing game for New England.
Well, the way the Patriots go, sometimes you don't know who the skill player is. Maybe it's Steven Jackson that steps up for them from running back, or James White, one of these running backs comes in and has a big game, or, you know, as you mentioned, Keyshawn Martin, one of these wide receivers. Tom Brady will go figure out your weakness on defense and go attack it. Gronkowski's the only one, though. Whoever's guarding Gronk, he'll still try to get Gronk involved.
Special teams not likely to be the difference in the outcome. The Patriots have struggled a little bit late in the season, but if it comes down to Steven Gostkowski or McManus, you got a big edge for the Patriots with Gostkowski.
Yeah, you do, and you know the way the altitude works in Denver, the way the winds were shifting last week against Pittsburgh, got to keep an eye on that as well, of course, to see how those two factor in. But you're right, you got 2 veteran special teams units, you know, 2 solid returners, although Denver without Omar Bolden, who had a nice punt return for them last week. So, you know, one of these games, it would be pretty interesting if it came down to something like that, or if it came down to the defenses when you're talking about a game that's built up to be Brady versus Manning.
And finally, Kevin, the biggest edge of all, Gary Kubiak's a good football coach. AFC title game is uncharted waters for him, and he's going against absolutely the best in the business in Bill Belichick.
Yeah, Belichick's done this a couple times before, whether it's a conference title game, Super Bowl. You know, this is not their first rodeo. Yes, it's in Denver. That's going to certainly hurt New England's chances a bit, but they're favored for a reason, and they are clearly the better team the way they've been playing. But hey, I'm not one to necessarily bet against Peyton Manning, finding it in him to have a very good, maybe a Peyton-esque game in this crucial AFC Championship.
Folks, about 6 weeks ago, they met on a Sunday night. The Broncos, 17 unanswered fourth-quarter points to get the game to overtime. The Broncos won it in Denver 30-24, but that was after Rob Gronkowski went down and 3 of the worst officiating calls I've ever seen. So make what you want out of it. It's a rematch. It's classic NFL, Sunday at 2:05. For all the best coverage leading up to and following the game, all the NFL action, stay right where you're at 24/7 at chicagofootball.com.